Bills, unhinged. Bills Mafia isn't just a fan base, it's a lifestyle. You guys wake up on game day, slam a beer, jump through a folding table, and call it brunch. And it doesn't matter if it's 75 degrees or a literal blizzard. You're still shirtless in the parking lot like it's WrestleMania. For decades, you were just a punchline. 4 straight Super Bowl losses? That's not a stat. That's a Greek tragedy. But somehow, that only made you louder, angrier, hungrier. Then, Josh Allen showed up. You finally had hope. A rocket-arm Wyoming alien who plays like he's in a backyard game with his cousins. You fell in love instantly, and now, you believe. Even if it all ends in heartbreak, again, you'll still be out there next Sunday yelling, "Let's go Buffalo," while your friend body slams a snowman. Dolphins, flashy. Miami has 2 fan bases. One lives in the group chat, sending Dan Marino highlights like he didn't retire in 1999. The other wears pastel colors, uses Tua's QBR in arguments, and only became a fan because Tyreek Hill made fantasy football fun again. You have a team that plays in 90-degree heat with 110% humidity. Half the stadium is empty by the 4th quarter unless you're winning. And even then, people leave to beat traffic and hit the beach. You're flashy. You've got speed. You've got style. But when it comes to meaningful games, your confidence turns into, well, we weren't really trying this year anyway. Jets, cursed. Jets fans are born with 2 traits, blind optimism and deep trauma. Every offseason, you convince yourself this is the year. And every regular season, it becomes clear it's not. You treat your draft picks like they're messiahs, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle. At this point, your fan base should come with a warning label. When Aaron Rodgers got hurt 4 snaps into the season, it wasn't just a football injury. It was a cosmic joke. Jets fandom isn't about winning. It's about surviving. Patriots, entitled. Let's be real. You were the most spoiled fan base in football for 2 straight decades. 6 rings. Brady and Belichick. You went from lovable underdog to final boss. And now, you're waking up in a world without a cheat code. Suddenly, a 7-10 season feels like rock bottom, but you still walk with a quiet arrogance. You remember what it was like. You still wear the Super Bowl hoodie from 2004 like it's fresh merch. And even if the dynasty's over, you act like the rest of the league owes you something. We were great once, is your mantra. But deep down, you miss him. You miss him. And watching Tom Brady win in Tampa hurt more than any loss. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed and dropped a like for the algorithm. Ravens, defensive. Ravens fans have a chip on their shoulder the size of the DMV. You're convinced the national media hates you, the refs are against you, and nobody gives Lamar the credit he deserves. You win 11 games a year and still act like you're the underdog in every matchup. Your QB is a former MVP, but anytime someone questions his playoff record, it's instant DEFCON 1 in your mentions. You still brag about Ray Lewis like he's your uncle. You treat defense like religion. And when Justin Tucker walks on the field, you don't hope he makes the kick. You assume it's going in. Bengals, cocky. Bengals fans are still adjusting to what success feels like. For most of your life, you were the team with the cool helmets and absolutely nothing else. Carson Palmer, fun era. Andy Dalton, solid. But deep down you knew, this franchise was allergic to winning. Then came Joe Burrow, cool, calm, cocky. The moment he walked into the building with those sunglasses and said, "Why not us?" You believed him. Now you treat him like he's Joe Montana in a Gucci ad. You're a small market fan base with big league swagger. But every time someone reminds you that you still don't have a Super Bowl ring, it stings. Still, this is the golden age. Enjoy it. Just don't get too comfortable. Browns, traumatized. Being a Browns fan is less of a hobby and more of a trauma response. You've survived 0-16. You've seen quarterbacks come and go like seasons. You still remember where you were during the drive, the fumble, and the decision. And none of those were even recent. But here's the thing. You never quit. You showed up every week even when the team didn't. You cheered for Colt McCoy like he was the future. You memorized draft picks like scripture. Then one day, you made the playoffs, won a game, against the Steelers, at their place. For a few weeks, the pain turned into pride, But in classic Browns fashion, that hope got snatched back faster than a rookie's playbook. You laugh through the pain, but still believes in a spark. And that, honestly, makes you one of the realest fan bases in the NFL. Steelers, relentless. You treat being a Steelers fan like it's a bloodline. Your dad was a fan. Your grandfather was a fan. Your dog is probably named Franco. The terrible towel is more sacred than a wedding ring. And even when your team is average, like 9-8, barely playoff worthy, you talk like you've still got the 70s steel curtain defense walking through that tunnel. You don't rebuild, you reload, even if you're clearly running on duct tape and vibes. In your mind, every game is a chance to prove the Steeler way is still alive. And every loss? Just a minor inconvenience on the path back to the top. Colts, nostalgic. Colts fans are like the quiet kid in class who used to be a straight-A student, and now just sort of coasts and hopes no one notices. You had Peyton Manning, then Andrew Luck. 2 generational quarterbacks back-to-back, and somehow ended up in quarterback limbo. You still talk about 2006 like it happened yesterday. Remember Super Bowl 41? Yes, we do. But since then, it's been a roller coaster. A very polite, Midwestern roller coaster. You just want good football, a stable quarterback, and maybe a few months where the team isn't in the injury report more than the standings. You're optimistic, but careful, like someone who's been ghosted too many times. You still miss Luck. You probably always will. Texans, hopeful. Let's be honest, your fan base is still in its infancy. You're the new kid on the block, born in 2002, raised on moderate success, and then immediately thrown into chaos. You went from watching Andre Johnson throw hands with Cortland Finnegan to watching your entire franchise implode thanks to a series of questionable decisions and one incredibly toxic QB situation. But suddenly, things feel different. CJ Stroud arrived like a storm, calm, composed, and undeniably elite. Now, you're acting like proud parents watching your kid win the science fair. You're not obnoxious yet, but you are ready to be. The stadium's getting louder. The jerseys are coming out of storage. You're not just hoping for playoffs. You're thinking about banners. Jaguars, chaotic. Jags fans are a special breed. You've survived tarp-covered seats, national irrelevance, and a team that once seemed more committed to playing games in London than in Jacksonville. But you stuck it out. Through Blaine Gabbert, through Blake Bortles, through Urban Meyer, which should legally qualify as fan base hazing. And now, Trevor. He's the prince that was promised. He brought hair, hope, and a playoff comeback for the ages. Suddenly, Duval is screaming louder, the teal is back in fashion, and the stadium feels like it actually wants to be there. You chant, Duval, like it's gospel. You know nobody believes in you, and that makes it sweeter when you win. Titans, gritty. Titans fans have this blue-collar energy that screams, I drive a truck, I drink sweet tea, and I still haven't forgiven Jeff Fisher. You love smash-mouth football, Derrick Henry, and playing games that end 16-13 for some reason. Your identity is toughness. You'll draft a wide receiver once every 5 years just to prove you're still allergic to explosive passing plays. You've been close. So close. That 2019 run? Magical. But since then, it's been a weird mix of injuries, QB swaps, and Mike Vrabel trying to win games with a roster that looks like it was auto-drafted. Still, you ride for your team. Nashville might be tourist country, but when it's Sunday, it's Titans time. You're tough, loyal, and extremely skeptical of fun. And honestly, that's kind of respectable. Chiefs, dominant. Chiefs fans went from loyal Midwest diehards to borderline unbearable dynasty energy in record time. For years, you watched other teams lift trophies while you held on to Priest Holmes highlights and dreamed of playoff wins that didn't involve heartbreak. Then, Mahomes happened, and now, it's different. You walk with swagger, you expect greatness, you show up to games in blizzards, chanting like Arrowhead is a coliseum. You treat Travis Kelce like a demigod, and Andy Reid like your collective football father. But you're also becoming the new Patriots, and you can feel it. People love to hate you now, because Mahomes is still here, and every time someone doubts you, he casually drops 400 yards and reminds everyone whose league this is. Raiders, reckless. The Raiders are football's rock band. No matter how bad the record, the merch still sells, the tattoos still get inked, and the crowd still shows up like it's a spiritual event. You pretended to believe in Jimmy G. You pray that Aiden O'Connell turns into Kurt Warner with better hair. You live for drama. From John Gruden emails to front office feuds, every season starts with hope and ends with fire everybody. But that's the beauty of Raiders fans. You're in it, no matter what. You've got attitude, you've got passion. Chargers, forgotten. You are the NFL's forgotten middle child. Even your home crowd is mostly filled with the other team's fans. You had one of the best young quarterbacks in football and somehow still found new ways to lose games no one else could possibly lose. Being a Chargers fan means pain in 4K. It means watching your team blow a 27-0 playoff lead and then listening to analysts say they're still a team to watch next year. You've got talent. You've got uniforms that slap. You've got SoFi Stadium, which you technically share like it's a timeshare rental, but you don't have identity. Are you LA's team? Are you San Diego's ex? Nobody knows, but you hang in there. And somehow, still hoping that one of these years, your team will finally stop being a meme and start being a monster. Broncos. Delusional. Broncos fans are proud. Maybe too proud. You act like it's still 2015 and the defense is running the league. You still speak of Peyton Manning like he's a living monument. But lately, it's been rough. You traded half your future for Russell Wilson and ended up with a Netflix comedy special. You fired coaches like it's a rotating internship. You watched your team lose to the Dolphins by 50 points and still showed up the next week like nothing happened. You are loyal to the core through whatever Sean Payton is cooking. You wear orange like it's armor and talk about mile-high magic even when you're 5-12. And here's the thing, you still scare people. Because no matter how down the Broncos are, that fan base, that stadium, that energy, it's one good QB away from being a problem again. And deep down, you know it. Cowboys, loud. You call yourself America's team, but half the country only tunes in to root against you. Being a Cowboys fan means living in a constant state of 1990s nostalgia and 2020's delusion. You have 5 rings, but you also have 5 decades of saying this is our year and getting bounced in the wild card round. You treat every win like a Super Bowl and every loss like a national crisis. You're always loud, online, in person, in the comment section of every sports post. You talk about Dak like he's either the second coming of Troy Aikman or the reason the team will never win again, depending on what time of day it is. But here's the truth. You're passionate, committed, loyal to a fault. You might be dramatic, but you care. And whether the Cowboys go 13-4 or 4-13, you'll still be wearing that navy blue jersey, yelling at the TV, and reminding everyone, we them boys. Eagles, unhinged. Eagles fans are the only group who can boo Santa Claus and still get a standing ovation from their own city. You're rowdy, aggressive, and deeply emotional. You treat football like religion, and game day like war. You used to live in heartbreak. Then 2017 happened. Foles went full folklore and you got your ring. But instead of chilling out, it made you even more feral. Now, you bark at strangers. You flip cars after wins. You fight your own team's fans when they don't scream loud enough. You are the only fan base that would turn a tailgate into a demolition derby and call it tradition. You don't care if people hate you. In fact, you prefer it that way. Giants. Bipolar. Giants fans have 2 speeds. Quietly confident or loudly suffering. There is no in between. When things are going well, you're reserved, classic, classy even. When things go south, you want the coach, the GM, and probably the parking attendants fired. You had Eli Manning, the most awkward elite quarterback in history, take down Tom Brady twice. That gave you permanent bragging rights, even if you haven't sniffed a Super Bowl since. You believe in tradition, in blue-collar toughness, in defensive lines and fourth-quarter magic. But lately, it's been rough. You drafted Daniel Jones and spent the next 5 years trying to convince yourselves it wasn't a mistake. Still, you ride. You know the joy of beating the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. You'll criticize your team all week and still show up Sunday like it's the Super Bowl. Commanders, resilient. You've had more name changes than playoff wins in the past 20 years. Your fan base is resilient because you had to be. You survived the Dan Snyder era. That alone qualifies you for a Purple Heart. You went from being one of the most storied franchises in the league to a national punchline. And yet, you never left. You're like someone who just got out of a toxic relationship, scared to trust again, but cautiously optimistic. You still hold out hope that this quarterback might be the one. And even if the team lets you down again, you'll still be in the stands, screaming like it's 1991 again. Packers, traditional. Packers fans are the NFL's version of a small-town cult, and I mean that lovingly. You own your team, literally. You wear cheese on your head like it's formal attire. You'll shovel snow for Lambeau if they ask, and then thank them for the opportunity. 30 years of elite quarterback play, and somehow only 2 rings. But you don't complain, out loud. You're just quietly waiting for Jordan Love to become the 3rd act in the trilogy. You respect tradition. You love frozen tundra football. You romanticize running the ball in -10 degrees, like it's the natural order of life. You're polite, until someone disrespects the Packers. Then, you're bringing up stats from the 60s and reminding them Vince Lombardi built this house. You're slightly smug, and you've absolutely earned it. Vikings, dramatic. Being a Vikings fan is like riding a roller coaster with no seatbelt. You go in expecting disappointment, but somehow still leave surprised when it crashes. You've seen everything. Missed kicks, miracle wins, playoff implosions, and Kirk Cousins doing the gritty. You are eternally hopeful, and it's borderline inspirational. Every year, you convince yourselves, this team is different, and every year, it isn't. But you keep going. You rock the purple. You chant "Skull" like it's ancient Norse war cry. You've got one of the best stadiums in the league, one of the loudest crowds, and fan section outfits that look like a Viking cosplay convention. You make football fun, even when your team makes it painful. You don't have a ring, yet. But the second you do, you will not shut up for decades, and honestly, you've earned that right. Bears, loyal. You are one of the most iconic fan bases in football history, and also one of the most tortured. You had 1985, one of the greatest defenses ever, the Super Bowl shuffle. And since then, nothing but hope and heartbreak. You treat running backs like royalty and quarterbacks like suspects. You've cycled through more QBs than most teams have jerseys. Every new one is finally the guy until he's not. You believe in defense, in freezing weather, in Soldier Field. You grill bratwurst at 9 a.m., wear Ditka sweaters in blizzards, and still bring up the Packers rivalry in every conversation. You're living proof that misery loves company, and sometimes a good tailgate is enough. Lions, redeemed. For years, being a Lions fan meant knowing 2 things: Thanksgiving losses and pain. You were the background noise of the NFL, lovable, forgettable, and perpetually rebuilding. You watched Barry Sanders retire early. You watched Megatron do the same. But now, it's different. Dan Campbell arrived and turned your team into a blue-collar war machine. Suddenly, the Lions aren't a joke. They're a threat. You didn't bandwagon. You earned this. You still tailgate in below-zero wind chill. You still chant "One Pride" like it's a prophecy. And now, for the first time in forever, people fear Detroit. Saints, rowdy. Saints fans are a mix of deep Catholic guilt and Bourbon Street Party energy. You wear gold like it's sacred. You wear beads year-round. You treat the Superdome like a religious site. And when you scream, "Who dat?" it's not a question. It's a threat. You endured the darkest days of football, the paper bag era, the Aints. Then, Drew Brees arrived and everything changed. For a decade, you were contenders. Now, it's murky. Post-Brees life has been a roller coaster of mid-tier quarterbacks and cap space nightmares. But you still show up. You still believe. You still treat every home game like Mardi Gras with a scoreboard. And every time someone says, "Well, the Saints aren't that good this year," you remind them, the Dome is never an easy place to play. Falcons, haunted. Being a Falcons fan is like constantly watching a horror movie where you know how it ends. You live with the ghost of 28-3. It follows you on memes, on Twitter, in casual conversations about teams that choke. But you keep going. Because that's what Falcons fans do. You find hope in flashes. A couple touchdowns from a rookie quarterback. A 200-yard game from Bijan. A stretch of 4 games where you almost look like contenders. You want to believe. You need to believe. But deep down, you're always waiting for the moment it falls apart. You've tried everything. New coaches, new uniforms, new slogans. Nothing sticks. But you're loyal. The Dome still gets loud. And when things go bad, you say the same thing every year. At least we're not the Saints. Panthers, forgettable. You're the youngest fan base in the division, and it shows. You don't have the deep-rooted trauma like the rest of the NFC South, but you do have a weird history of wild highs and brutal lows. You had Cam Newton, the most electric player in the league, and watched him Superman your team to a 15-1 season. You dabbled in dominance, you got a taste. But since then, it's been nothing but quarterback whiplash and coaching musical chairs. You have a beautiful stadium, a clean uniform set, and some of the chillest fans in the NFL. But you also get forgotten. A lot. Even your own fans sometimes forget what city you technically represent. Still, you believe in the rebuild. You believe in Bryce Young, even if it hurts right now, hoping your moment actually comes. Buccaneers, conflicted. Before Tom Brady, your franchise was mostly known for creamsicle jerseys, pirate ships, and losing in creative ways. You were the neighborhood team no one feared, but everyone liked. You were quirky. Then, Brady showed up like a divorced dad in a sports car, and suddenly you had rings, relevance, and a fan base that grew overnight. You went from lovable mess to actual contenders. People started buying Bucs jerseys, who had never seen a Raymond James Stadium tailgate in their lives. You're not the NFC's punching bag anymore. You're the team people shouldn't sleep on, but still kind of do. 49ers, obsessed. 49ers fans are some of the most passionate, proud, and petty people in football. You have a rich history. Montana, Rice, Young. You talk about the catch like it happened last season. You talk about the 2019 Super Bowl like it was stolen from you. And you talk about Brock Purdy like he's both the underdog and the chosen one. You have one of the most intense online fan bases. You'll argue that Purdy is elite, that Jimmy G was misunderstood, and that Trey Lance was never given a real shot. But here's the thing. You know ball. You love this team with your whole chest. You yell, "Bang Bang Niner Gang," like it's a legal name change. Every year you say, "This is our year." And honestly, it might be. You're always in the mix, always right there. Just one healthy QB away from glory, one play away from vengeance. And when it finally happens, because it probably will, you're never letting the league hear the end of it. Seahawks, energized. You're the loudest stadium in the league, and you want everyone to know it. Seahawks fans turned volume into identity. The 12th man is not just a nickname, it's a lifestyle. You came alive in the Legion of Boom era. Marshawn, Rusky, Pete. You went from afterthought to dynasty in the making, and then came the play. You don't talk about it. You can't talk about it. Post-Russ, you were supposed to fall apart, but you didn't. Geno Smith shocked the world. You kept fighting. You kept winning. You never stopped screaming. You think every player you draft is a future Hall of Famer, and you still believe Lumen Field is the most sacred sound trap in the NFL. And the truth is, it just might be. Cardinals, neglected. You're the fan base everyone forgets until someone mentions underrated. Being a Cardinals fan is like being in a long-distance relationship with someone who keeps saying they'll change, and sometimes actually does, for a week. You've had legendary moments. Larry Fitzgerald's Super Bowl run, Kyler's Hail Murray, but they never last. You start hot, then collapse like a lawn chair in week 10. Your fan base is loyal, but quiet. You just want stability, a team that plays hard, a quarterback who doesn't delete team photos off Instagram every offseason. Is that too much to ask? Rams, synthetic. You're the fan base that's still figuring itself out. You moved back to LA, won a Super Bowl, and now half the stadium still looks like a Chargers home game. Your biggest battle is convincing people you have actual fans in the city. But you're flashy. You love stars. You love big moments. You turned F them picks into a lifestyle and then actually cashed it in. You built a super team, won it all, and still somehow feel like a sleeper team most years. You're not the loudest. You're not the most loyal, yet, but you are growing. You've got one of the best stadiums in the world, a coach with movie star energy, and a fan base that's slowly becoming something real. You might not have decades of loyalty, but you have rings. And in LA, that's what counts. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed. Thanks for watching.